Ciao travellers, this is Shirley Ann for the Travellers Ukulele Gig Guide to Australia, where we talk to people about travel and ukulele. Today I'm sitting in Sydney, in the middle of an area called Guildford. I'm sitting here with a wonderful ukulele player. Could I introduce my guest to you today? His name is...
Sitting here.
Vic Kenner.
Yay!
Hey.
Hi Vic, how are you?
Hi Shirley. Yeah, I'm really good, thank you.
That's great.
Really good.
It's really wonderful to be sitting here in the Airbnb talking to you. I'm very excited, and that's because we've known each other for a little while, haven't we?
Most of our lives, I think.
I think it is.
That's many years ago.
It is many years ago. And how is that? How is that possible, Vic?
Well, I feel like I'm a twin of yours. We're that close. And that's isn't it like just so cool that we are first cousins and our dads were twins, twin brothers. And look, I'm so excited to be sitting here. A fellow musician.
Yes, thank you.
You've followed your dream to be a ukulele player, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much, cousin. Oh, isn't that great? You always need somebody on your side, whether it's from inside or outside family, travellers. Now, travellers, I did share that we were in Sydney, but Vic, can you tell us where you're from, please?
From a little place called Potal, which is in the northern part of the North Island, north of Auckland on the west coast. And very remote area, but that's where home is. And brought up on a farm, a dairy farm for a few years, and then forestry was introduced into our area. And so from the farm, went into forestry, and I'm really fast tracking it here. At the age of 23, I thought I'm going to try my hand at being a rock star and travel to Brisbane in 1985, and I've been here ever since, following my dream.
Are you still working with cows and forestry?
No, I haven't. I haven't milked a cow since I was at primary school, and I prune my tree outside my house is the only forestry work I do now.
Oh, and it's bitterly cold in the west coast of New Zealand when you're doing milking twice a day, isn't it, cousin?
Oh, yes, it is, and especially when you've got to milk early in the morning.
Terrible, terrible. Okay, so at the age of 23, which was a few years ago, you thought you might pursue your dream in music. So you came to the big smoke, Brisbane. What did you do when you arrived here?
I arrived here, went straight to family who looked after me, and within 1 week I was able to buy a car and a guitar and an amp. I was so proud of myself, and just started looking for musicians that might want to jam with me, and I just started that way. So the guitar was my first instrument way back then. Way back then.
Okay, all right. I seem to remember over the years, maybe I've checked in on you at a couple of times in my life. Do I recall you went further afield than Brisbane? Perhaps you were in a show? Did you do a Polynesian show at one stage?
You know,
because you're Polynesian, aren't you?
Māori through and through. Aye. And that was probably within the first year. Some of my family were putting a Polynesian show together, and they knew I played guitar, they knew I could sing, and they invited me to join their band. And yes, we ended up on the Whitsunday Islands, performing up there and around Brisbane doing functions. So, you know, with the Polynesian show, had to learn how to dance like Hawaiians and Samoans and obviously our Māori action songs and the haka. And yeah, that was you're right, that was an introduction into the entertaining world.
Could I just check in here? You said you were up the Whitsundays performing
Yes.
in a Polynesian show.
That's right.
I was doing that as well.
Whereabouts?
At one stage, well, I was at Club Crocodile
Oh, really? That's
with Googie Walker.
Yeah, really. I did not know that.
What about you?
I was Hayman Island,
Oh, yeah, okay.
Hamilton Island.
Very classy, much better than Club Crocodile, which I think in those days might have been the Backpackers Island.
Well, that had nothing to do with me. I just made up the numbers. But wasn't that cool? I did not know that.
Oh, it didn't last for very long, but I also had the day job of being the nurse, you see. But at night you'd have to get your coconut kit on just to make ends meet, as you do, and you can when you're slender and 20 years old. Okay, so after the Whitsundays, after the Polynesian Festival, you're starting to establish yourself in a new city, in a new country, but pursuing your dream of music. What happened then?
Yeah, I started taking guitar lessons, and being Māori, we're gifted with a good ear. So I was able to listen to a song, and I was able to pick the song up pretty quickly. And because of that, it wasn't enough. I felt it wasn't enough to get me into a career as a guitar player. So I decided to take some guitar lessons. And it was a jazz guitar player who was my teacher. So I wanted to buy a jazz guitar. Now, we had a thing called a trading post way back then. Oh, yeah. And I found this guitar in the trading post, and I went to buy it. It was $200 for this beautiful F-hole Yamaha. It was sunburst in colour. And it was sitting in this guy's garage, and I'm trying this guitar out and playing some of the things that I've been learning in my lessons. And he looks at me and he goes, hey, do you have a job? I said, yes, I do. He goes, do you like a job? I said, no, I don't. And it was working at a steel factory, so I loved playing guitar, and I was very conscientious of my fingers, and it was quite dangerous, this job, so that's why I didn't like it. Oh. And anyway, he says, would you like to play guitar for me? Oh. I'll pay you $500 a week. And I was in shock. I said, what? Yeah, I'd love to. When do we start? And he says, this weekend, you can start this weekend. So that very next day I went into my work and I handed in my notice, and I went back to this guy's house, learnt his songs, and within 3 days that was the beginning of my professional career.
Wow, I did not know that story, cousin. Yeah. Fantastic.
That was the beginning of my career.
Did he give you a discount on the guitar?
No, he still sold it to me at the price of $200.
So he's a businessman as well. Oh, mind you, $200 is not an expensive price, is it?
No, and I thought I'd actually, ended up with a deal of the year.
Yeah, right. Of course.
Yeah. So that's how it all began.
Beautiful. So, journey forward to a little bit. What would you say your next milestone in your music career would have been?
The next milestone was 3 months later. Oh. So this gentleman's name is Dave, and there was a group. They had a hit song, and it went like this. I beg your pardon. Oh. I didn't promise you a rose garden. And they were making a comeback, right? And one of their band members wasn't coming back with them. And this guy, Dave, had such a beautiful, rich baritone voice. Mm. They asked him if he would join their group. And he was in two minds. So in 3 months, I really established how to play these songs, and I had a good sound, and I was getting a good feel for the songs. And so he was in two minds. Do I go with this group who are making a comeback, or I stay with this new duo that he's created and continue on that path? And he decided to go with this new group, New World, I think it was. So he didn't want to leave me in a lurch because he knew that I was very young at the music game. And I was so young, in fact, I was very shy. I didn't like talking to people. I was naive. And he organised an audition for me for a group called Rusty and There's Rockettes, and their guitar player was leaving. And I didn't know who they were. And so what happened was, I didn't want to go and do the audition because it just seemed like a big mountain for me to climb. I didn't feel like I was experienced enough for it. And he said, you should go and have a look at the band. And I went to this show that they put on, and it was a touring band. There was a massive PA, it was a big light show, and there was a room full of people. And I just walked straight out. I said, no, I'm definitely not good enough for that. And so this guy, Dave, tried to find me a job with someone else. In the meantime, one of his friends knew the band leader of this big band and had organised an audition for me. So Dave calls and he says, you've got to go to this place. We've managed to get you an opportunity to audition for this group. And reluctantly, I said, okay then. I get on the phone to a friend of mine who was just an exceptional guitar player, and I told him the story, and I said, do you want to come for a ride? I'm going for an audition. I don't think I'll get the job, so if I don't, would you apply for the job?
Oh.
And he says, yeah, okay, I'll come with you. Off we go. We walk in the door and I'm looking down, just shy and looking down the ground, look up and quickly shake his hand, and Rusty's there. And he had his fiddle player and his keyboard player. He was an American guy. And he says, hey, Vic, we're just going to play some songs and we're going to see how you go playing along to them. I nodded, and every song he played, I learned with Dave. I couldn't believe it. So they were playing the repertoire of songs that I was playing, so I knew what I was doing. And I don't know, we played a half a dozen songs, and he said, I think I've heard enough. And apparently when I walked out the door, the fiddle player, who we became friends with later, he said, Rusty, get him. And a few days later, I get a phone call from their manager saying, Vic, congratulations, you're in the band. Your work cassette is in the mail. Learn all the songs. On this date, your first gig is at such and such. And I was just so excited. So I learned all the songs and ended up going to the first gig. And I was with that band for 4 years. And the guitar player that was leaving was Keith Urban.
Can you believe it, travellers? That's the tagline. Who was it, Cuz?
Yeah, it was Keith Urban.
Fantastic.
He just left the band to pursue his solo career way back then. And that was the next phase from joining Dave. So that happened 3 months after I joined Dave. And from Dave to joining this band, all of a sudden we're sponsored by Ansett Airlines then. So the first gig was in Brisbane. The next gig we toured Tasmania, went all around Australia, and I ended up going over to America with Rusty. And but here's the interesting thing with it all, is that while that was all going on, something in the back of my mind was saying to me, what will you do if this guy gets crook, or even worse, something happens to him? What will you do? And I thought, that is so true. I'm going to be unemployed. if I don't look after myself and take this opportunity to start learning how to look after myself in terms of, solo artist or something. And so I started spending more time watching how Rusty was working the audience, the song selections we were using, the energy he was creating. And his manager also had an agency, so I called him, his name was Greg, and said, look, I'd like to try and learn how to become a solo artist. And he said, okay, you need yourself a PA and get yourself a good song list and give me a call when you do, because I'll give you a gig. And he put me in a place called Her Majesty's Bar on a Monday night for 12 months. Every Monday I was booked in there, and it was just enabled me to learn my craft as a solo artist.
Just going to check in here, Vic, because I love that story so much, because I think what's really inspiring for ukulele players, for travellers, is the point that even though you were a young, talented musician, you still reached out for help to learn more, but you were observing and you were thinking about your career. But I remember you, Vic, as a child on the dairy farm back in Potor, and you were taught your craft, weren't you, cousin?
I was taught by watching and listening. There wasn't really a teacher where they would say, okay, put your finger here, put it there, and play that shape, and then that chord is called that. Or there wasn't that sort of teaching. It was all about using your ears and using your eyes and staying out of the road. Don't try and pick up the guitar, and try and do what I'm doing just yet. It was, just Dad had all these instruments. He had a set of drums. He had a bass guitar. He had a guitar. He had a keyboard. He had microphones. Where he got them from, I have no idea. But our house had all this musical equipment, and all his brothers and cousins would get together and play all these instruments, and they were phenomenal. And, with that, there was no YouTube way back then, so I don't even know how they learnt. And I was able to sneak up and just enjoy watching them play, and I loved it so much. That was my TV. I got to enjoy that as my TV. And I know my dad's younger brother, Uncle Fraser, he was an incredible musician, but he wasn't there. He was here in Australia pursuing his musical career. And every time he did come back to New Zealand, I would be like a Klingon. I wanted to be with him wherever he went, because he was just a beautiful guitar player and just a wonderful singer, and I loved everything about him. So he was my hero growing up. And when I decided to come over to Australia to pursue my musical career, it was inspired by Uncle Fraser, who lived down the Gold Coast then, and I came over, and I was fortunate to spend some time with him, and it was him that got me into the Polynesian group that we enjoyed way back then out on the islands. But yes, Uncle Fraser, what an incredible musician.
I remember those days in the country kitchen, in between milking and cleaning up that horrible milking shed. Playing music and listening to you all playing music, cousin. Yeah, and the wonderful visits and the stories from afar Uncle Fraser would bring to us when he would come home. Fantastic.
Yeah, yes.
So you had somebody that inspired you. You had your father, you had your family band, you had your uncle who was really making moves would that have been the 1980s?
1980s, early mid-1980s, mid-1980s, I travelled over here. Yes,
Yeah.
That was when I reconnected with Uncle Fraser on a musical level.
That's fantastic. What I think I should really ask now is, we've got a whole background of music. We've got a story about guitar. We've got some travel. We've got the start of some entrepreneurial vocation. You're really understanding in your head that you need to build yourself a career. What happened next? What was the next milestone in your story?
Well, one of them, which happened in the mid-90s, was I was booked to play at a hotel, and they needed a trio. So I'd gone from a solo artist to a duo, and on this particular date, I needed a third band member. So my duo partner, I asked her if she knew anyone else. And she says, I've got a friend who's a really good singer. We're in a band together. And I'll ask her if she wants to join us as a trio. I said, fantastic. So anyway, she brings her friend along to a rehearsal. And yes, those two were mates, and the blend of their vocals together were just phenomenal. I really hit a jackpot. But that wasn't really the win. The win was this third band member was, and turned out to be my wife.
Yes.
That's how I met my wife.
Yes.
She became the third band member of our trio, and how blessed was I to have someone beautiful, talented, and could really sing. And that made my job so much easier. And we started traveling around together as a duo, because this friend of ours was, they didn't want trios all the time. So my wife and I, we'd travel to New Zealand and we'd travel back to Australia, because she's from here, from Brisbane. And that was an exciting time. So, 10 years later, I met my soulmate. I met my musical soulmate.
Wow, fantastic. Congratulations, cousin.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know you're listening out there, Cuzzy cares. Just wonderful to have you in our whānau. It is really wonderful. Now, cousin, we're going to fast forward a few years, because I know all the travellers are really interested. They're interested in your story. But what they really want to know is, how did you meet up with ukulele?
It was 10 years ago, or just over 10 years ago. I turned 50, and I knew my wife has always wanted to be on a cruise. So she goes, what would you like for your 50th birthday party? I said, I think I want to go on a cruise. And she was so happy. So we organised this island hop. And as it turned out, it was a 7-day cruise. And we had our 3 children with us. And the day the cruise got back, I was scheduled to play in a band that night with a band that I'd actually never performed with before. And all I had was the song list, and I had to learn the songs. Now, I didn't want to take the guitar on the cruise with me, and so I saw this kid's ukulele in one of the closets, and I thought, I'm going to take that. And I committed to doing it. I thought, I reckon I can learn all the songs that I've got to learn for this important gig on the ukulele. And off we went on the cruise. So I'm finding time to do my practice, writing out my charts, and come to the 7th day where we all landed. We all hopped off the ship. I dropped my family home, got tidied up, picked up my gear for the gig, and drove to the convention centre. set up where we did our sound check, and the musical director said, okay, let's play a couple of songs. And he just called them out. I just flicked to my page, and I hadn't actually practiced them on the guitar yet. And I just went through and played the songs, and the musical director came up, shook my hand, and he says, hey, well done, learning your parts. And I looked at him and I said, will you believe I learnt them all on the ukulele? And he looked at me and he said, what? I said, yeah, I learnt them all on the ukulele. I just got back from a cruise, and told him the story, and he couldn't believe it. And I got to say, I couldn't either, because some of the things that I had to learn, I was so surprised that I could actually play them on the ukulele. And that just inspired me. And it also made me realize that everything that I learnt on the guitar, I was able to transfer to the uke.
Travellers, so we're hearing you had a big gig, you went away on a cruise,
Yes.
you didn't want to take your guitar, so you grabbed one of the kids' ukes and taught yourself the set list whilst at sea to come back and do a gig, and you nailed it. Is that correct?
It was, yeah, it was. It's exactly how it was.
Well, interestingly enough, travellers, you can't see, but Cousin has a travelling ukulele in his hand right now. Cuz, do you know one of the songs? Can you give us a couple of bars from one of the songs? What sort of a band was it? Was it bossa nova? Was it swing jazz?
It was a funky groove band.
Oh, funky groove. Okay.
Funky groove band, and these musicians are what we call serious musicians.
Oh.
Serious as in, yes, you had to play the right notes, but you also had to put them in the right place. It was all about the groove with these players. So their musical director, he's very well known in the corporate musicians world, and he's all about groove. So to get a compliment from him was a big compliment, because he doesn't hand them out too much.
Fantastic.
But yes, a groove band. So one of the tunes was funky music, and it's just the rhythm. Yeah, you had to place the rhythm in the right spot. And here's what I was learning. Something simple. It sounds simple, but it's really it's got a lot of feel in there, and there are things you can't really
fake
or describe. It's something you just have to feel.
Fantastic. Oh, fantastic. It was groovy. I think I could play it, but I probably couldn't. Maybe I couldn't. I don't know, Traveller. Can I? I think I'm going to try. Okay, so we've started the ukulele journey.
Yes.
What happened then?
Well, learning all those songs made me realise that I could play whatever I could play on guitar, on the ukulele. And there was a group called the UK Orchestra.
The Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain.
Yes. They just blew me away. I couldn't believe how good they were. And they inspired me to start my own ukulele group. So that cruise was in November, and by December I'd invited 6 other musicians to join my group. They're all professional musicians, and one of them was a musical director in this band that I had joined for the big event. And we decided that we'll get together. They were so unsure about this idea of putting a band together, and most of the members were playing the ukulele. I had a drummer, a bass player, I had 4 ukulele players and a didgeridoo player. And we put together a show called the Australian Ukulele Show. And the whole concept of it was to tell an Australian story using music and events that have helped shape the Australian nation. And yeah, we called that the Australian Ukulele Show, and I was excited with the band because musically everyone was just top shelf, and vocally everyone could sing really, really well. So I thought, we've got ourselves a show just like the UK Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain. And that's how I got started on that.
I really think the Ukulele Orchestra of Great Britain, when they started their career, inspired many people, as did the Wellington International Ukulele Orchestra. Oh, I love them, cousin. Do you know them? They did great works, didn't they? Really
I
good.
love them, yeah. They were definitely inspiring.
They just had some funky music and they wore great clothes. And they're from Wellington. That's where I'm from. So that just makes them super special. Cousin, we're going to fast forward about 10 years and we're going to come right down to now. The last year, or definitely 2023. What is sitting on your horizon now?
Yeah, I'm currently doing a lot of gigs, regular gigs and events and festivals for the ukulele. But you know, my main focus is I love teaching. I just love sharing the knowledge that I have. That's allowed me to open up many doors and enjoy the opportunity to play the ukulele in a way that I know it's not easy for others, but with my teaching I like to share some of the elements that I know that I've adopted to being able to teach myself how to execute some of the things that I like to play and share them with others. And it wouldn't matter if you're a beginner or an experienced player or an advanced player. These little pillars that I've identified are so simple and so relatable to anyone who picks up an ukulele. I definitely know that the way to learn, adopt these little principles that I'd love to share with your listeners, because they are principles that I have to use when I want to learn a song.
Oh, I'm completely intrigued, travellers. Come on, cuz, tell me what the principles are.
One of the big ones is when everyone who wants to learn a song, they all try and learn it at the speed that the original song is playing. So if it's a song like, let's say, Take It Easy by the Eagles, it's quite an up-tempo song. It's got some little fiddly bits in there, a nice riff. So when people try and learn to play a song like that, one of the big struggles is that they try and learn it at the same speed. The key is you've got to slow everything down to a painful, slow speed. And that speed no one likes because it's not easy. But if you can adopt that principle into your learning of slowing things down, it's such a powerful way to learn things faster. I know it doesn't make sense, but Jake Shimabukuro has got a quote, is known for a quote. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's like, practice everything slow while you're practicing. Now, let's go back to the song Take It Easy. Just in what I've played there, number one is the speed of it. There's some little riffs. There's a little sliding note. And the strumming pattern also is it's not just a normal strumming pattern. So for me to be able to, if I were a beginner, for me to be able to learn how to play something like that, I would have to break it right down. And you've got to be patient with learning something new. And patient means just practice something small, even if it's just this part, the absolute beginning of the song. If you're struggling to know what that little part is, it's a down, up, down. It's a little triplet strum. And when you play it painfully slow, it'd sound like this. One of my key pillars, play everything slow. Because here's what happens. You get to hear everything. Now, if you're not strumming your strings properly, you'll get to hear that. If you're not strumming with your strumming hand properly, like your finger might get caught in the strings, you'll get to hear that. So all we're going to try and do is, when we play slow, is try and create a nice, clean sound. Play slow. And you can't hear those things when you try and play everything fast. And playing slow allows you to create muscle memory a lot quicker.
What's the second key principle?
Well, I did mention it earlier in a passing comment, and that is be patient. Be patient. Everyone's impatient when they want to learn. I was like that. I wanted to play everything fast, and I wish someone taught me these principles when I was learning, because I was young and I was excited and I thought I could play everything perfectly straight away. And patience, being patient means if I do that little triplet strum that I just played for Take It Easy, I would give myself a task of being able to practice it for 7 days at that slow speed. And I would just have to be patient with that. I can say that now because I know that it works, this formula works. But for someone who's never tried it before, you just have to take my word for it, and you're going to go, well, I don't know. When you get to day 6, you still don't hear any improvement. You're going to go, nah, this isn't working. But if you may be stuck in it for one more day, maybe you would notice something just a little bit different on that 7th day. So be patient. I guess it's like an athlete who, who wants to run 100 meters in under 10 seconds. You're not going to be able to sprint from start to finish straight away. You're going to have to slowly work your way up to that speed, build your muscles up. We take the same approach when we're learning how to play the ukulele.
Fantastic. I think that's real gold. But what about the third principle?
Well, the third one that I've chosen for us today is I have a 2-minute rule, and I call it focus practice. And that is, if you've got something in a song that you're trying to learn that it's like a brick wall, you can't maybe make a chord transition from one chord to the next cleanly, or you're struggling to play a chord that you've never played before and make that a clean sound, or there's a strumming pattern that you have to learn. Focus practice means you just identify whatever that little part is, and you just focus on that for anything up to 2 minutes. Anything longer than that is wasting your time and energy. And what focus practice does is it really makes you concentrate on that specific area. So the formula of doing everything slow and being patient, doing it long enough to wait for an improvement, and focusing on it for 2 minutes at a time, that's the formula to becoming not just a good player, but a great player.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yay! And that's what we at the Travellers Ukulele Gig Guide wish for every ukulele player.
Oh, that's awesome.
Now, cousin, this is the Travellers Ukulele Gig Guide podcast. And so our demographic is the grey nomad. They're people moving around Australia trying to connect with other like-minded four-string people. Cousin, how can people find you for to keep up to date with perhaps your gigs, or if you're doing an event, or if you're participating in a ukulele workshop, or your online teaching? How do people find you, cousin?
I go by two names. One is VK Ukulele, and you can use that for my website address, vkukulele.com.au, and Vic Kenna Uke, VICKENA, Uke, UKE. That's my Facebook page. So I've got a website page and my Facebook page. They're usually the best way to contact me. And if you jump on there, just send me a message. And if you need any help, let me know. In fact, if you do send me a message, tell me some of the things that you might need some help with. I'd love to hear that. And if I can help you in any way, I'd love to be able to do that as well.
That is fantastic. What a wonderful offer. And listeners, could I please say, why don't you tag the Travellers Ukulele Gig Guide podcast in your email and just say, I heard you and your cousin on the podcast and I was inspired to reach out and contact you because I want to hear some music and I want to become a better ukulele player. That would be fantastic. Now, cousin, is there anything else that you would like to talk about? Would you like to share with the travellers? I
do have a couple of projects, and one of them is currently I'm enjoying the sound of Australian bush ballads. So I've learnt a set of Australian bush band songs, which includes country music. So there's Slim Dusty, there's stories of Ned Kelly in there, and I just love playing those old songs. And although I'm from New Zealand, I've been here for many years, I guess, and my wife is Australian, I'm enjoying being able to play a set of songs that brings out those stories and sharing them with some of my students and anyone else who wants to play that style of music. I'm really enjoying that. So I've got a little solo show, where I play those songs. People download the chord charts and they can get to play along with me. Yeah, and some of them, cousin, are just great to play.
And where do we find the link to said music?
Oh yeah, you send me a message and say, we want to play those bush ballads that you're talking about.
On your Facebook page?
On Facebook and my website page, so vkukulele.com.au, or my Facebook page, Vic Kenna Uke. So I've got that going, that's bush ballads, and in actual fact, we've got a show. I've got a 4-piece, a smaller version of the big Australian uke show. There's 4 of us performing next Thursday. We're in Brisbane. Club Bentley it's called. It's a morning melody show, and we've been asked to play 2 sets there. And then on October the 7th, I've decided to host a ukulele picnic. And my sister has a property where her husband's built this beautiful stage, outdoor setting, and it's a great place to bring your ukulele and your picnic. So I got a couple of fun projects that I've started up, and I'm hoping to do more of that in the new year.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations and all the best of luck, cousin. We love everything that you pour out into community regarding ukulele.
Thank you.
You know what I think? I think it's time to hear a little bit more music from Vic Kenna. What do you think, travellers? Shall we do it? Oh, Let's hear more music. Cousin, give us a little song or two or something fabulous to sing us out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Traveller's Ukulele Gig Guide podcast. I'm your host, Shirley Ann, and we've been talking to Vic Kenner from Brisbane.
Thank you so much, cousin. It's an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be here with you today. I'm going to share with you all a song called Road to Gundagai. It's in the key of G, and it is fun to play. Winding back to an old-fashioned shack along the road to Gundagai, where the gum trees are growing, the mountain bridge are flowing beneath the sunny sky, where my mother and daddy are waiting for me, and the clouds of my childhood no more will I see, and no more will I roam. 'Cause I'm heading up home along the road to Gundagai. Up we go. Where my mother and daddy were waiting for me, and the paths of my childhood no more will I see, and no more will I roam, 'cause I'm heading right for home along the road to Gundagai.
Yay, the road to Gundagai. Do you know anybody in the Gundagai eucalyptus?
I do not.
Well, Helene, this is my cousin, Vic Kenner. I better send him out to you so you can introduce yourselves. Fabulous song, cousin. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Aloha, travellers. Until next time. Thanks for listening, travellers. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, or click notifications on your preferred platform so you don't miss a yarn. We're posting a new episode every Wednesday morning because it's a great hump day, pick-me-up kind of a podcast. Thanks for listening. This is Shirley Ann. Aloha.